Good morning and welcome to this tutorial. My name is Jonah Beecroft. In this tutorial, we take a look at the pension and gratuity. Without wasting time, let's dive in. The idea of pension and gratuity is as old as mankind. From time immemorial, society have always found ways to take care of the elderly, retired warrior, and those who serve the society well. Provision or support were in place, such as gift of land, food or shelter, as a way of appreciating past service. This idea is what transformed today in modern government as pension and gratuity. Yes. This tutorial, to buttress these points, we take a look at Psalm 17 verse 9. Psalm 17 verse 9 says, "Cast me not off in the time of old age. Forsake me not when my strength faileth." That is Psalm 71 verse 9. It reads, "Cast me not off in the time of old age. Forsake me not when my strength faileth." This is the cry of many workers. This is the cry of many retirees today. Men and women who once built the nation, now forgotten in their old age. In any society where pensioners are often neglected, are delayed or denied their rightful entitlements, understanding pension and gratuity is not just education. It is an urgent necessity. This tutorial is designed to equip you with the knowledge, processes, and principle of pension and gratuity. Whether you are a student preparing for any professional exam, or a worker, or a retiree, or you are a government official, or you are one of the policy makers, this tutorial is your right. What is pension? What is gratuity? How are they calculated? Who is not eligible for pension and gratuity? These questions, among many others, form the main thrust of this series of tutorials, which is split into 3 parts. Now, what is pension? What is pension? Now, what is pension? Now, pension is a regular monthly payment made to an employee by the employer after retirement, usually until death. Usually until death. That is pension. That is a monthly payment made to an employer by the employee after retirement. It is usually paid until death. Yes. In some nation, in some country, pension payment even extend until after death. That is a situation where the pensioner who died is having a wife who is aged and can no longer fend for himself, or is having children who are too young. In such country, when the retirees die, the pension extends to the dependents. But many countries, pension ends when the retirees died. Now, you can write, pension is a regular monthly payment made to an employee by the employer after retirement, usually after death, or as may be defined in the pension scheme. In some nations, pension is also paid after death, especially when the pensioner that dies is having or is survived by a wife who is aged or children who are too young. So pension is a regular monthly payment made to an employee by the employer after retirement, usually until death or after death, depending on what is defined in the pension scheme. Now, there is a question. Is pension a gift? Why payment of pension? Pension is not a gift. Pension is part of what is called social security. Pension is not a gift. It is what is part of what is called social security. And what is social security? Social security is a deliberate program by government to cater for the elderly one, to cater for the aged, to cater from those that can no longer work, to cater from those that have lost their breadwinner. That is what social security means. And let us take it in full. Social security, a government deliberate program designed to provide financial support and protection to individuals and families when they are unable to earn income. When they are unable to earn income due to old age, disability, unemployment, sickness, or death of breadwinner. Examples of social security are pension and gratuity, healthcare support, unemployment benefits, and other family schemes. So pension is not a gift. Pension is a right. Pension is not a gift. If that question pop up, is pension a gift? No. Pension is not a gift. It is a right. It's a part of social security. Now, pension is not a gift. It is a right. Pension are legal rights derived from contracts, derived from law and constitutional provision. Pension are found in pension acts, a civil service rule, a government policy, and judicial decision. Under labor law and regulation. That is to say that the right of pension is embedded in statutes. They are embedded in the Constitution, they are embedded in the Pension Act, They are embedded in the civil service rule, government policy. They are embedded they are found in judicial decision, and they are also embedded in labor laws and regulation. So pension is not a gift. It is the right of the worker. It is a wrong impression for any government or any person or employer to be thinking that pension is a gift. It is not a gift. It is a right towards the employee. So most of the problem why pension are delayed or not paid is the impression that pension is a gift. It is not a gift. It is a right derived under status, under the law, under the Constitution, the Pension Act, and the Civil Service Rule, government policy, and labor law and regulation. Now, how is pension calculated? Before you will be able to calculate your pension, or before a pension is calculated, three variables must be present. And one of the first variable is the total, the pay, the final pay. The last salary that the worker has received must be known. Then the second variable is the number of years that the retiree serve. And the third variable is what we call the pension multiplier. The pension multiplier is just a factor that shows the size of the pension. So to calculate your pension, you need three variables. The first variable is 1, the number of years you spend in service. 2, your last salary. When I say last salary, it means basic salary, housing allowance, and transport. And the third one is the pension multiplier. Now, what is gratuity? What is gratuity? A gratuity is a one-time lump sum payment to employee by the employer at the end of his or her service. That is to say, a lump sum, it's a one-time payment, once and for all payment. Unlike a pension is a continuous payment until death. But gratuity is a once and overall payment. The payment is once. It is the lump sum one-time payment by employer to employee at the end of his or her service. Gratuity is usually paid after voluntary retirement or compulsory retirement, or after death, or immediately after death. Now, you can take down. Gratuity is a one-time lump sum payment to employee by the employers at the end of his or her service. It is usually paid immediately after voluntary or compulsory retirement, or immediately after death. That is to say that when a worker is retired compulsorily, he is entitled towards gratuity. When a voluntary retired, is entitled towards gratuity. and when he dies, is also entitled to gratuity. Now, how is gratuity calculated? Gratuity is calculated by knowing three variables also. The first variable is the last payment, that is the last amount paid to the worker, which will be which will comprise the basic salary, the housing allowance, and transport allowance. The final pay, that is one. Secondly, the number of years that the retiree served. And the third variable is what is called the gratuity multiplier or the gratuity factor. When these variables are calculated or known, then to calculate your gratuity is very simple. We shall come to that in the part 3 of this series of tutorial. So gratuity is a one-time lump sum payment to employee by the employer at the end of his or her service. It is usually paid immediately after voluntary or compulsory retirement or immediately after death. Gratuity is calculated based on year of service, last salary, and what is known as gratuity multiplier. Now, the word the word gratuity is taken from the word gratitude, appreciation, a thank you for working with us faithfully. That is to say that gratuity is a reward, it's an appreciation, it's a thank you for serving us faithfully. You can also take that. Gratuity is coined from the word gratitude. It is an appreciation or a thank you reward for a long, dedicated, loyal, and faithful service. Gratuity also is not a gift. It is a right. It's embedded in status, embedded in the civil service rule, embedded in labor law and regulation, and embedded in pension acts. So it is not a gift. It is what? A right. Now let's go on. The next thing we want to take a look at is the key difference between a pension and gratuity. What are the key difference? That is what we are going to take a look now. The key difference between pension and gratuity is based on some features, and this feature we are going to take a critical examination of these key features. There are about 4 key features that actually distinguish pension from gratuities. So the first feature, pension, then gratuity. The first feature there is the nature of payment. The nature of payment. Now, gratuity is a continuous payment on the debt or after debt as the scheme may define. Yes. And the nature of payment, Under pension, you have a continuous payment on the debts. Yes. Or monthly payments. On the debt, or as the scheme, that is the pension scheme, may define. It may be after death, because of the dependent of what the retiree, or it may be immediately, we stop immediately the pensioner dies. Then gratuity is a one and for all lump sum payment, just once, an appreciation, one. That is gratuity. Now, the purpose of payment. The purpose of payment is next feature we are going to take a look at. What is the purpose of paying pension? What is the purpose of paying gratuity? So, the purpose of paying pension is one, a cushion. It replaces the salary of the retired worker. This will enable him to fend for himself, to live comfortably after years of service. So the first purpose, it is a social work, security, financial security, to enable the pensioner be able to take care of him or his or herself at retirement. Then, for pension, it's a reward for long services. It's as an appreciation. That is the purpose for the payment of what? Gratuity. Now let us rule it. Let us let us demarcate it so that it will not join together. So that is that. So the next feature is the calculation basis of calculation. What did you need to calculate the pension or to calculate the gratuity? Now, the thing you need to calculate your pension or the basis of pension calculation is years of service. Yes, the final pay and the pension multiplier, as we have earlier said. The final pay includes the basic salary, the housing allowance, and the transport allowance. Then, the basis of calculation of gratuity is also the final pay, the service year, the final pay, and the gratuity multiplier. So the difference is that the pension multiplier and the gratuity multiplier. We will talk about this thing when immediately we finish explaining this. What is the pension multiplier and what is the gratuity multiplier. Now the last and not the least is, I think that is the last and not the least is I think that is all. That is all the future that we need. I think there are 4 keys. Now, okay. What is this? Good. Qualifying periods. Yes. The qualifying period of pension and gratuity differs. For pension, a worker must serve for at least 10 years before he's qualified for pension and must attain the age of 45. That is depending on your nation, or depending on your labor law, or depending on the pension regulation in each country. In some country, you must attain the age of the age of 45 and must have served for at least 10 years before you will be qualified for pension. And for gratuity, in some country, you will qualify for gratuity when you have put in 5 years in service. You may be qualified from gratuity and you may not be qualified for pension. If you serve for 10 years, you are qualified for pension and gratuity. But if you have not attained the age of 45, you will not be qualified for pension. So to qualify for pension, you must first of all put in 10 years of service, and you'll be when you attain the age of 45. So if you put in 5 years, 10 years of service, and you are not up to 45 years, then you will not be given pension immediately. You will be given pension at the attainment of 45 years. Now let us go back to what we mean by pension multiplier and gratuity multiplier. This term are crucial, as we will find later when we will start to learn how to calculate our pension and gratuity. Now, what is a pension multiplier? Now, a pension multiplier is the factor used to calculate pension benefits. It determines the portion of the final salary received as pension, usually as expressed as a percentage per years of service. That is, example, 2.5% times years of service times final salary. That means pension multiplier is the percentage of the pension benefit, the pension factor that you will use to calculate the amount of money that is a pensioner is receivable at the end of his service. Now, gratuity multiplier, otherwise known as gratuity factor, is a factor used to calculate lump sum gratuity payment at retirement. It's often based on number of years served and final salary. Who determine this pension multiplier and gratuity multiplier? The pension multiplier and the gratuity multiplier is determined by your employer, the government, labor law, and so on. These multipliers are determined by government policy, employment contract, or pension laws and regulation. These points are crucial by the time we go into calculation of pension benefits. Understanding these points will enable you be able to calculate your pension before you retire, to know the amount of pension that will be accrued to you when you retire. So that when somebody tells you this is your pension, you tell them, no, you did not calculate it well. This is how to calculate it, and this is how to calculate it. Do not be fooled This knowledge is your right. It is right for you to know how to calculate your pension. And by the time we finish this series of tutorial, every one of you that listen to this tutorial will able to calculate their pension and gratuity. It will be as simple as ABC. Let's proceed. Now, let us ask another question. Who is not eligible to pension and gratuity? Who are the people that are not eligible to pension and gratuity? Who are they? We want to know those that are not eligible to pension and gratuity. Because pension is not every worker that work that is eligible to pension and gratuity. Then if there are some that are not eligible, what are the categories of workers that are not entitled to pension and gratuity? Who is not eligible for pension and gratuity? And the first set of people or the first set of group that are not eligible for pension and gratuity are employees engaged on contracts. Employees that are engaged on contracts. Those are the first group of workers that are not entitled, that are not eligible for pension and gratuity. They do not meet the minimum service year required for pension and services. That is to say, one of the categories of workers that do not or are not eligible to pension and gratuity are employees engaged on contracts, casual or temporary basis are excluded from pension and gratuity. You can take them. 1. Employers engaged on contracts, casuals, or on temporary basis are often excluded from pension, especially if their tenure is short. Yes, they are excluded because especially their tenure is short, or they are excluded because they do not meet the statutory number of years that they are supposed to work before they can be qualified for pension and gratuity. They do not meet the minimum service year required for pension and services, and so they are excluded. Then the second classes of worker who may not be eligible to pension and gratuity is employees who resign before completing the required years of service for pension and gratuity. If an employee resigns from services when is just served for a number of, say, 4 years, then it's not eligible to pension and it's not eligible to what? Gratuity. So this is the second group of persons that are not eligible to pension and gratuity. That is employers who resign before completing the required years of service. If you leave too early, say before 5 years, you may not qualify for pension and gratuity. Now, the next categories or group of persons or workers that may not or may be excluded from pension and gratuity is those dismissed for serious misconduct. If a worker is dismissed for serious misconduct or is fired for a gross misconduct, he will lose the gratuity and will lose the pension. But it depends on the contract, the law or the labor law or the government policy. In some cases, in the contributory pension scheme, the workers may be entitled to the amounts that he contributed in this scheme, in his own retirement savings scheme. And in some cases, the dismissed worker may be entitled to 25% of the total of the sum in his retirement saving account. Then it depends on what is defined in the pension scheme. So, employee who resign before completing the required years of service may be excluded from a pension and gratuity. Then the next group of people or next group of service or worker or employee that may not get pension and gratuity is interns or apprentice or National Youth Service Corps members. Interns or apprentice and an apprentice or a National Youth Service Corps, a corp or a corper still serving will not be eligible to pension and gratuity. Yes. Why? Why is it not eligible? It will not eligible because it's still undergoing training. People that are still undergoing training are not regarded as permanent worker. Some of them are there to attend work experience. Those group of people may not or will be excluded from receiving pension and gratuity. Now you can take down yes, this first set of people, the interns, apprentices, and National Youth Service Corps members. They are still in training or national services and are not regarded as permanent employees. Now, what do I mean by interns? Interns is more or less apprentice. Yes, interns are a group of people or students who just finished school, who just passed out from school, and they want to acquire work experience, like a university graduate who just finished school and he want to acquire some experience. It will still be under training. For instance, in the corp member who is serving want to get first-hand workplace experience. Those are the people we refer to as the intern. It's called internship training. But for us to get the vivid explanation of what we are talking about, let us write down. Interns are individuals, usually students or recent graduates, who work temporarily in an organization to gain practical experience in a particular field or profession. Here is a simple breakdown. Internship, short-term work experience. Interns, the person doing the internship. It can be paid or unpaid. It is often part of education or career development. Example as stated earlier, a university graduate studying accounting may work as an intern in a bank to gain real-life experience in financial operation. On this note, we come to the end of this tutorial. Our next tutorial, we are going to take a look at the different type of pension scheme. We are going to look at the defined pension scheme and the contributory pension scheme, and we are going to exploit the difference so that you will know what these two schemes mean for you. If you find this tutorial helpful, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for learning with us. Bye.